As our protagonist returns to where he left his teacher, he's met with a shocking sight. The entire building reduced to rubble. His teacher, standing amidst the debris, shouts, "Where have you been running off to?" He stares at the destruction in disbelief, thinking, "Do you even know how to hold back?" But brushing it off, he mutters to himself, "I took a little detour, but I should head to the auction soon. I was at the Information Guild." He tells her, "A black magic artifact is going up for auction today." His teacher's expression shifts instantly. "What did you just say? I can't let that happen. Hurry and tell me where it is." She grabs his shirt, shaking him for more details. Scratching his cheek, he looks away. There's a barrier around it. "You won't get in without an admission ticket." She groans in frustration, eyeing him for another solution. "Well, there is one way," he finally admits. Fast forward to the auction, and his teacher is gripping his arm like a devoted lover. "Isn't there any other way to get inside?" she mutters under her breath, trying not to draw attention. "Didn't I tell you?" he replies with a smirk. "Without an admission ticket, the only way in is to enter as my lover." As they take their seats, she scowls. "Even so," he cuts her off, whispering, "Come on, act properly." Meanwhile, he reflects on the situation. There's a risk she might go berserk, but there's no better bodyguard than her. His teacher sneaks a glance at him, suspicion in her eyes. Has he done this before? As the auction begins, our main character relaxes slightly, thinking, looks like a pretty ordinary auction. Nobody should be interested in that artifact, so I should get it easily. But as he scans the room, he suddenly tenses. His teacher notices the change in his demeanor. "What is it?" "Is it the magic artifact?" she whispers while scanning the room herself. However, his focus is locked onto a black hooded figure lurking in the background. A system screen appears before him, revealing her identity, Kania. Her abilities and special features are displayed, making his expression darken. Why is she here too? He wonders. Before he can process it, a lady in a red hood takes a seat beside him. "Excuse me," she says as she settles in. Another system screen flashes before him. Klana, another main heroine. Her abilities and attributes are listed in front of him. Not her too. He groans internally. His paranoia spikes as he scans for any more familiar faces. That's when he spots Frlosh sitting directly in front of him. His stomach sinks. This is the worst possible scenario. Leaning toward his teacher, he whispers urgently, "Never call me by my name while we're here." Who would have thought all three of them would be aiming for the same item? He muses. At least Irina wasn't here yet. He contemplates their motives. Are they planning on controlling me with that item? As if answering his thoughts, the auctioneer steps forward. "Now, let me present to you the Unknown Stone, a mysterious artifact whose power even the greatest appraisers cannot decipher." A system screen appears before him. Stone of Domination. This stone allows its user to manipulate a target's mind and assume total control over them. His eyes narrow. "I need to secure that stone at all costs." The auctioneer starts the bid. "We'll begin at 1 gold. Without hesitation, our protagonist raises his sign. "Sorry, but I can't let this fall into the wrong hands." Don't underestimate the financial strength of the greatest ducal family in the empire. The auctioneer announces, 15 gold from the young master. Is there another bid? Before he can relax, the red-hooded girl, Klana, raises her sign. 20 gold. A new bid from the lady. His jaw clenches. So she's aiming for it too. Then, to his horror, the priestess, Frlosh, raises her sign and confidently writes down a number. 10,000 gold. The entire auction hall goes silent. The auctioneer gasps. Unbelievable. A bid of 10,000 gold? Could this be the winning bid? Frlosh, now realizing her mistake, pales. She whispers to herself, "What do I do? I wrote down the wrong number." Our protagonist buries his face in his hands in frustration. She's so clumsy. Shaking it off, he quickly writes down a new bid. 11,000 gold. Before he can catch his breath, another bid follows. 12,000 gold. He grits his teeth. This is going to be a long night. Our main character raises his sign again. 13,000 gold. But before he can even process his bid, another voice calls out. 20,000 gold. The auctioneer gasps. 22,000 gold. Unbelievable. Then another bid follows. 30,000 gold from the man with the white hair and blue mask. The tension rises as the numbers continue to climb. 40,000 gold, 50,000 gold, 52,000 gold, 55,000 gold. The auctioneer looks around the room. Is there anyone willing to bid higher? Going once, going twice. Sold at 55,000 gold. As the final bid is confirmed, a chilling sensation washes over our protagonist. He glances at the elderly man who had been bidding against him, and for the briefest moment, he feels a deep, unsettling aura emanating from him. Damn, that was costly, but at least I secured it, he thinks to himself. Before he can celebrate, a purple aura suddenly flares up around his little butler's hands. What is this aura? He mutters. His butler, looking deep in thought, murmurs, 55,000 gold. I wonder how many years of my salary that would take. Then, before he can react, she raises her hands, forming a magic seal. Wait, you can't be. Before he can finish his sentence, darkness envelopes the entire room. No way she planned this from the start. Chaos erupts in the auction hall. The auctioneer calls out, "Everyone, please remain calm. We will continue investigating this quietly." Our main character grits his teeth. Damn it, this is the worst. Why is this happening? No, there's no time for that now. I need to secure the stone. He dashes forward, reaching for the artifact. But just as his fingers are about to touch it, a golden light flashes before him. A foot, glowing with golden energy, slams down, stopping him in his tracks. Through the fading darkness, he sees a figure in a red mask. "You weren't supposed to be here," a regal voice states. "Who in the world are you?" His mind races. The princess of the kingdom? Her sharp gaze is locked onto him. "It would be in your best interest to identify yourself right now," she commands. With a stern and straight voice, he says down. The princess, in confusion, didn't process what he said. "Just look down, Frey said." He barely has time to react before another commotion distracts everyone. The princess suddenly screams, "You shameless devil! How dare you? What the hell?" Before he can even respond, Ferloche, standing beside her, glares at him. "What a horrible act," she exclaims. "You truly are one of the Demon King's minions." A brilliant holy light flares up around her as she prays. "Oh, sun god, grant me your power to smite this perverted demon." A massive light manifestation forms behind her. The main character groans. No, no, no. I'm not a demon, and I didn't set her clothes on fire. She did it to herself. A holy shield manifests and slams into the ground, aiming for him. A massive shockwave ripples through the room. Dust clouds rise, debris flies everywhere, and the impact causes part of the auction stage to collapse. As the dust settles, everyone stares at the spot where the main character should have been hit. Instead, he kneels on the ground, completely unharmed. The priestess stares in disbelief. That should have been a direct hit. How did you? Our protagonist wipes sweat from his brow. This girl is so fired up she's losing all sense of reason. The priestess clenches her fists. This must be one of the sun god's trials. I shall face it wholeheartedly. The princess, her patience thinning, glares at him. I will kill you. How dare you look down on me? Both women raise their hands, preparing to attack. But before they can strike, a sudden force knocks them both aside in an instant. A single step, a single, effortless step. Both the princess and priestess collapse to the ground, gasping for air. The entire auction hall falls silent. Our main character slowly turns his gaze to the source of the unimaginable pressure. An old man steps forward. He removes his mask and smiles. I never thought I'd run into you in a place like this, Mr. Frey Starlight. A system screen flashes before the protagonist. Eucharius. Special abilities. Special features. His heart pounds. No way. Why is he here? The great demon Eucharius. The great demon Eucharius. Frey quickly steadied himself, adjusting into a kneeling position on the ground. His heart pounded as he faced the overwhelming presence before him. Could you possibly be Eucharius-sama? The fierce aura surrounding the man sent shivers down Frey's spine. He cautiously glanced around the room. The two women who had just been preparing to attack him now lay unconscious on the ground, completely overwhelmed by the sheer force of the demon's presence. The man before him, Eucharius, merely smirked, his sharp, intelligent eyes scanning the chaos of the auction hall. "Indeed," he said, his voice rich with amusement. "I've come here for the stone of domination." Frey's breath hitched. He knew it. So he's after the stone too. This just got even worse. His mind raced as he quickly tried to suppress his reaction. He acted as if he had no idea what the stone truly was, pretending it was some insignificant relic. "The stone of domination?" Frey muttered, tilting his head slightly, feigning ignorance. Eucharius chuckled, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. "Oh, come now. Don't play dumb." The demon took a step forward, his presence alone making the air feel heavier. "That stone is a tool that will enhance my power beyond imagination. With it, even the demon king herself will be forced to acknowledge me." Frey's eyes darted across the battlefield. His little butler, Kania, was engaged in a desperate fight, using her dark magic to form a purple shield as she fended off numerous assailants. His mind reeled. So this is the man who took the stone in the past, the one who changed everything. Eucharius folded his arms, his confidence unshaken. "Once I have that stone in my grasp, no one will be able to stand against me. Not even the so-called gods." Frey swallowed hard, forcing his voice to stay calm. "I see. By the way, about those two." He gestured toward Connie and the professor. Eucharius barely spared them a glance before laughing. "Ah, those two? I simply brainwashed them." A cold chill ran down Frey's spine. "What?" Eucharius stroked his mustache absent-mindedly, completely unfazed. "That swordswoman over there attacked me, so I took over her mind. A mere demonstration of my power." His eyes gleamed with dark amusement. "Now, imagine what I could do once I have the stone of domination. I'll be unstoppable." Frey tightened his grip on his sword. "So, he's already powerful, but right now he's incomplete. If I'm ever going to have a chance against him, it's now." With a deep breath, he lowered his stance. "That puts me at ease." Eucharius raised an eyebrow. "Oh." Frey's lips curled into a smirk. "So, what you're telling me is that you're still weak?" Before Eucharius could respond, Frey moved. In an instant, he dashed past the demon, blade flashing in the dim light. A single, clean slash. Blood splattered onto the cold floor. Eucharius staggered, eyes wide in shock. Frey landed gracefully behind him, his sword humming with magic. "For a moment, I almost thought you were the great demon," Frey taunted, watching as Eucharius collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. But he had no time to celebrate. In the background, Kenia had fallen. She lay on the ground, her arms desperately shielding her face, bracing herself for a final attack. Above her, a sword glowed ominously, a single moment away from striking her down. And the wielder, it was their professor. "No, she's still under the demon's control." "Kania." Time slowed as Frey sprinted toward her, his feet barely touching the ground. A golden coin slipped from his pocket, clinking softly onto the floor. Kania, still squinting her eyes shut, braced herself for the incoming strike. But the pain never came. Instead, a masked figure appeared before her, shielding her with his own body. The blade tore through flesh. Blood splattered onto Kania's face. She gasped, her eyes snapping open. Before her, the mysterious masked man, her savior, knelt on the ground, clutching his wound. What? Her hands trembled as she reached for him. "Are you okay? Say something." Frey coughed up blood, but his grip never wavered. Ignoring the pain, he reached for his sword. With slow, deliberate movements, he stood up, placing a comforting hand on Kania's shoulder. She looked up at him, gazing into his eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Why in the world did you save me?" Frey wiped the blood from his face, his expression unreadable. His gaze shifted toward Eucharius' body. "This is bad." Even with the demon dead, the professor was still under his influence. Frey took a deep breath. "Can I really win against my professor at full strength in my current state?" Then, the professor's dark magic surged. Her eyes, once pitch black, flickered with color. Frey saw his chance. Their swords clashed in a brilliant display of light and shadow, sparks flying through the air. The professor gritted her teeth, her expression one of pure struggle. The magic controlling her was beginning to break. With one final clash, the darkness shattered. Her body trembled as she collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily. Frey let out a long sigh of relief. It's over. The brainwashing was undone. He turned away from the auction hall, clutching the stone of domination tightly in his hands. I need to get out of here before more trouble arrives. As he started to leave, wait! A small, desperate voice called out behind him. Kenya. Wait, please, she cried, taking a step forward. Who in the world are you? Frey stiffened. Kenya rushed after him. Wait, tell me your name. But Frey didn't stop. The moment she reached out toward him, he vanished. Like a phantom in the night. Kenya stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. She clenched her fists, whispering under her breath. I will find you. Frey sprinted through the empty streets, his breath ragged and uneven. His vision blurred, his legs screamed in pain, and blood trickled from his wound, staining his clothes. I can't lose consciousness here. He gritted his teeth, forcing his body forward. If I fall now, everything I did would be in vain. His heart pounded violently in his chest, his mind racing. Just a little further, if I can make it to the student dorms. I just need to hold on until then. The night air was cold against his sweat-drenched skin. His body threatened to give out, but he kept pushing forward, one step at a time. The once chaotic auction hall was now eerily silent, the aftermath of battle etched into the blood-stained floors. A soft groan broke the quiet. The princess stirred, clutching her throbbing head. Ugh, what happened? She mumbled, rubbing her temples as a pounding migraine pulsed through her skull. It felt like I was trapped in a horrible nightmare. Beside her, the priestess stretched her arms, letting out a relaxed sigh. Ah, that was the best sleep I've had in ages. The princess shot her an annoyed look before attempting to stand. Then, she froze. Her foot had stepped into something wet. Slowly, her gaze lowered, and her blood ran cold. Beneath her boot was a pool of thick, crimson blood, and just inches away, the lifeless face of a demon stared back at her, its long tongue limp on the floor. Ah! The princess shrieked, stumbling back in horror. The priestess, startled by the scream, turned to look, only to nearly fall over and shock herself. As their panicked eyes darted around the room, they finally noticed someone standing near the corpse. A lone figure. The princess' breath hitched as she squinted through the dim lighting. Then, realization struck. Kenya-san? Is that you? The small figure slowly turned around, revealing wide, astonished eyes. The little butler, Kenya, stared at the princess, her expression unreadable. Princess, why are you? But before Kenya could finish, the princess cut her off, her voice sharp and serious. The fact that you're here can only mean one thing. She took a step forward, her tone turning cold. You have memories of your past life too, don't you? Silence. Kenya's breath caught in her throat. How did she know? The princess' expression remained unreadable as she studied Kenya's reaction. Then, her eyes narrowed. Just answer me this one question. The room seemed to grow colder. Are you Frey's enemy? Or are you his ally? Kenya felt her pulse quicken. She hadn't meant to say it. She hadn't even thought about it. But before she could stop herself, the words slipped from her lips. I am his enemy. A stunned silence fell over the room. Then, the princess' serious expression melted into a radiant smile. Oh, thank the gods. The priestess, on the other hand, looked like she had just been struck by lightning. Her jaw nearly hit the ground, her eyes bulging in shock. W, she sputtered. The princess ignored her, grinning mischievously as she leaned closer to Kenya. Then, in that case, she clasped Kenya's hands in hers, eyes gleaming with excitement. Would you like to join our Frey Murder Preparation Alliance? Kenya blinked. The what? The priestess, still in shock, choked on air. The princess nodded enthusiastically. Our secret alliance dedicated to discussing ways to kill that bastard. Kenya stared in disbelief. Was this really happening? The princess then turned toward the priestess, her expression suddenly sharp and scolding. And you, she said, her voice taking on a sassy edge. The priestess flinched. Why yes, she stammered. The princess crossed her arms, raising a judgmental brow. Are you studying properly? A single sweat drop slid down the priestess' face. What? She stuttered, her eyes wide with panic. The princess narrowed her gaze. If the church's influence grows too strong, then everything will go exactly as Frey planned. You need to be careful. The priestess lowered her head, defeated. Okay. She didn't even try to argue. In the background, Kania remained completely still. Her mind was racing, her cheeks slightly flushed. Because among all this insanity, she had spotted something that made her heart pound. As the princess continued scolding the priestess, Kania slowly turned away, her eyes widening with realization. Her lips parted slightly as she whispered to herself. This is... Inside the dimly lit student dormitory, Frey sat on the edge of his bed, wrapping fresh bandages around his body. Every movement sent sharp pain through his muscles, but he forced himself to stay steady. What a nightmare of a day. His body ached, exhaustion weighing down on him like a ton of bricks. He sighed, rubbing his temples. A flicker of flame illuminated the dark room. Frey held up the mask he had worn earlier and watched as it burned to ash in his palm. At least this will erase any clues that I was the masked man who saved Kania. The Demon King's minions appeared out of nowhere. Then, the heroine suddenly got her act together while I was barely holding on. Still, the thought sent a shiver down his spine. If they had been just a little stronger, I would have died today. Tired beyond belief, Frey began dressing himself, moving sluggishly. Just as he finished buttoning his shirt, the door suddenly swung open. Frey's body tensed, his breath catching in his throat. Kania stepped inside, her posture straight, her voice calm. Excuse me. I've returned. A cold sweat dripped down Frey's back. How did she get back here so quickly? Kania took a step closer, studying his face. Master, where have you been today? Frey forced a casual scoff, waving her off. Didn't I tell you earlier? I went shopping with our professor, Nay-san. He brushed past her and flopped onto his bed. I'm exhausted. Stop questioning me and turn off the lights already. Kania didn't move. That's strange, she murmured, tilting her head. Frey's heartbeat quickened. I saw someone who looked exactly like you in the back alleys earlier. Another bead of sweat rolled down Frey's forehead. Kania continued, her eyes sharp. He covered his face with a mask, but the sword he used looked very familiar. Frey gritted his teeth. Damn it, she doesn't have conclusive proof yet. I just have to play it off. He scoffed, pulling the blanket over his face. Stop being ridiculous. There are thousands of swords out there that look like mine. Kania's expression darkened. Her voice dropped to a chilling tone. Is that so? Then, she reached in her pocket. By the way, when you were running away, you accidentally dropped this. She held out her hand. A golden coin rested in her palm. Frey's eyes widened in horror. Don't touch that carelessly. Kania's gaze remained steady. I found this at the auction house today. How strange. It seems you were so desperate to escape that you didn't even notice. Frey shot up from the bed, his face pale as a ghost. But it was too late. The damage was done. Kania had all the proof she needed. Frey's hands trembled as he snatched the golden coin back, his grip so tight his knuckles turned white. Then, in frustration, he threw it against the wall. Just what the hell are you talking about? He snapped. Kania stared at him in silence. Then, she climbed onto the bed. Before Frey could react, she straddled him, pinning him down. She grabbed the hem of his shirt and lifted it up. Her sharp eyes scanned his body. The bandages. Her breath hitched. There it was, the undeniable truth. A deep gash ran along his back, still fresh. The same place where the masked man had been slashed earlier that night. Kania exhaled softly, her gaze filled with quiet understanding. There was no point in denying it anymore. So, what are you planning to do now? Frey asked coldly. Kania simply stared at him. There's no point in playing the fool anymore. Frey felt his throat tighten. His body tensed, waiting for her to say something. Anything. Instead, Kania whispered, Tell me, why did you save me? Frey clenched his fists. Stop. Why? Kania pressed. I said stop. Before another word could be spoken, a sudden system message appeared before Frey. Penalty incurred. Debuff. Fate of the false villain. The user's lifespan and vitality have been greatly reduced. Stacks 1. An unbearable pain surged through Frey's chest. His vision blurred, his body convulsing violently. Then, he coughed up blood. "Young master?" Kenya gasped, reaching for him. His body shuddered, blood dripping from his mouth, his eyes turning a deep crimson. His breathing grew ragged, his limbs trembling uncontrollably. "What's happening to you?" Kenya cried. Frey's fingers dug into the bed sheets, his face twisted in agony. "Damn it. Everything that happened today. None of it was in my calculations." His grip weakened, his vision fading in and out. Kenya hesitated for only a moment. Then, she grabbed him, pulling him into her arms. "Young master." She held on to him, her voice trembling. "Stay with me." Frey. The world around him blurred into darkness. And then, everything went black.